Welcome to the Sense Making in a Changing World podcast, where we explore the kind of thinking we need to navigate a positive way forward. I'm your host, Morag, permaculture educator and global ambassador, filmmaker, eco-villager, food forester, mother, practivist, and all-round lover of thinking, communicating, and acting regeneratively. For a long time, it's been clear to me that to shift trajectory to a thriving one planet way of life, we first need to shift our thinking. The way we perceive ourselves in relation to nature, self, and community is the core. So this is true now more than ever, and even the way change is changing. Unprecedented changes are happening all around us at a rapid pace. So how do we make sense of this? To know which way to turn, to know what action to focus on, so our efforts are worthwhile and nourishing and are working towards resilience, regeneration, and reconnection. What better way to make sense than to join together with others in open, generative conversation? In this podcast, I'll share conversations with my friends and colleagues, people who inspire and challenge me in their ways of thinking, connecting, and acting. These wonderful people are thinkers, doers, activists, scholars, writers, leaders, farmers, educators, people whose work informs permaculture and spark the imagination of what a post-COVID, climate-resilient, socially just future could look like. Their ideas and projects help us to make sense in this changing world, to compost and digest the ideas, and to nurture the fertile ground for new ideas, connections, and actions. Together, we'll open up conversations in the world of permaculture design, regenerative thinking, community action, earth repair, eco-literacy, and much more. I can't wait to share these conversations with you. Over the last 3 decades of personally making sense of the multiple crises we face, I always return to the practical and positive world of permaculture, with its ethics of earth care, people care, and fair share. I've seen firsthand how adaptable and responsive it can be in all contexts, from urban to rural, from refugee camps to suburbs. It helps people make sense of what's happening around them and to learn accessible design tools to shape their habitat positively and to contribute to cultural and ecological regeneration. This is why I've created the Permaculture Educators Program, to help thousands of people to become permaculture teachers everywhere through an interactive online dual certificate of permaculture design and teaching. We sponsor global perma-youth programs, women's self-help groups in the Global South, and teens in refugee camps. So anyway, this podcast is sponsored by the Permaculture Education Institute and our Permaculture Educators Program. If you'd like to find more about permaculture, I've created a 4-part permaculture video series to explain what permaculture is and also how you can make it your livelihood as well as your way of life. We'd love to invite you to join our wonderfully inspiring, friendly and supportive global learning community. So I welcome you to share each of these conversations, and I'd also like to suggest you create a local conversation circle to explore the ideas shared in each show and discuss together how this makes sense in your local community and environment. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I meet and speak with you today, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. It's my pleasure today to welcome Natalie to the show, founder of 1 Million Women. For 10 years, Nat has been inspiring a movement of women and girls around the world to act on climate. Now more than ever, this is so important. Nat's run programs on all kinds of things, from food waste to plastic to carbon footprints and how to live a low carbon life every day, taking on climate emergency through the way that we live. Natalie is also the author of the book Every Woman's Guide to Saving the Planet, which is packed full of how-tos and really talking about her story too, from moving from being a bystander to an international campaigner. Just today, as I was speaking to Natalie, she launched a new campaign on divesting. So really looking at what we're doing with our money and how our money is or isn't actually contributing to the climate emergency. So it's with a great pleasure that I share with you this wonderful conversation with Nat and thank her for the time she spent with me today. So thanks so much, Nat, for joining me on Sense Making in the Changing World. It's an absolute delight to have you on the show. I was just talking to one of the young girls who's part of the Perma Youth that I work with the other day. What's your favourite book that you're reading at the moment? And she said it was yours, and she was so excited that I was having you on the show. So I'm so glad to have you here. It's you've been running or inspiring this movement, 1 million women, for about 10 years now, and I know you're so close. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're close.
Like,
Oh,
what?
gosh.
Just a couple of hundred? How many? What are you up to
Well,
now?
we're at about 970,000.
Oh my gosh! So what happens when you get to 1 million? Does it become
Oh,
2 million women? Or
I don't know, because we are nearly at a million women now. But when I started 1 million women, I honestly thought that we would be at a million women in 6 months, because I didn't. I really, I thought that because for a number of reasons. Um, but really because I didn't fully understand how hard it is to profoundly change how you live.
Mm.
And I thought that, because I had just changed my entire life, I thought, oh my goodness, how hard can this be? Everybody will want to jump on board. And so it took me by surprise that we weren't at a million women in 6 months.
So what inspired you to change? Because you were making cosmetics before, is that right? You
Yeah.
were in cosmetics. So from cosmetics to climate change activist and movement leader, that's
Yeah.
quite a shift.
Yeah, I know, huh? So I was a cosmetics manufacturer for 24 years.
Mm.
That is, I've only done two roles in my life. One is start my own cosmetics company, and the other is start 1 million women. But and as a cosmetics manufacturer, my life is so different to what it is now. It was really all about over packaging. I had microbeads in my products. I really was disconnected to the whole issue of climate change,
Mm.
and I actually also thought that, who am I anyway? I'm just one person, so you can't. How can one person make a difference? And so it's a very different world. But the short story is, in somewhere around 2006. I think the world got the point on climate change. The Inconvenient Truth,
Yeah,
the
that's
album
right.
movie came out. In Australia, there were ferocious bushfires
Mm.
happening at the time, and I was doing, without going into it too deep because it would make the story way too long. I was doing things that year that I was getting engaged on the issue of climate change, and so all these things were happening. But I think the thing that actually changed my life forever, and I say this a lot, but it was that I gave myself this challenge to get our household electricity consumption down by 20%. And really easy stuff,
Mm.
low hanging fruit. Anyone can do it. And when I saw the bill and I saw that I actually had saved, I actually did it. And I did it, and I was still having a good time. And I did it, and it didn't cost me anything. And there I just saved money and pollution at the same time. Actually, that was what it was. It was that action where I did something and saw this result that changed my life forever. And I realized I was powerful. And what if millions of us did just that?
Mm.
And it kind of led me on my journey, because I then got our household food waste down, and then I stopped over consuming. And then, as you do, I started a women's movement, but
It's
not
kind of
so.
like that's kind of the point where most people stop, though, isn't it? Actually going into the movement side of things is massive. But before we get into that, I was wanting to just pick up on what you were saying, that it is not just an all at once kind of thing, is it? You're sort of like there's a revealing of a change that can happen, and you go, oh, and then you sort of take up another layer and then another layer, and you can keep moving through it. It's not like an all at once, have to change your whole life all at one time. Although there is this sense of urgency, and I guess by having a movement of people who are supportive, who've got information, who you can tap into, who can kind of motivate you along the route of making the change, that's kind of a really important part, I think, of what it is that you're doing with 1 million women. It's creating the community of change rather than feeling that you are by yourself. Um,
Absolutely.
mm,
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that picking up on a couple of this, I'm just going to put my cup of
Yeah.
tea down on the floor. Picking up on those points, it is a journey, you know, and I think that it and it depends on where you're at on the journey. Like if you're just starting this and you really don't know what to do to make a difference, it really is this: just do one thing. Don't worry about anything else. Just do one thing and see that difference. Because I promise you that one thing will pull you on to the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then you'll be wanting to know what the next is. And that's this beautiful journey of empowerment. And I witness that all the time at One Million Women, and that was absolutely my story, and maybe my story a bit quicker than others because I rapidly went from one thing to the next. But I think that profound change sometimes can't just happen all at once. And it is different. Everybody's story is different, and the most important thing is that you're on the journey, just so long as you're on it and you're moving forward all the time. And I think that goes to the philosophy of One Million Women.
Yeah. I think, that's exactly right. Being on a journey and feeling part of something and connected to it. But there was something about what's happening this year, which has made everything quite a bit different. I mean, what the latest figures that I saw was that we've actually reduced our footprint by something like 14.5%. And
or even more. But
it could be way more than that. And the ecological the overshoot day, which is coming up soon on August the 22nd, it's the first time ever that it's gone backwards since when I was born in 1969. That was the last time we lived on a one planet way of life. Ever since then, we've been working towards, we're now a 4 planet way of life here in Australia. And overshoot day globally last year was July 29th. This year it's pegged to be August 24th. So we've gone backwards. So all of these things that COVID has forced us to do, like stop flying, to be more localized, to grow more food, there's a lot of the things that actually were part of the message about consuming less, growing more, being more aware of our carbon footprint. All of a sudden, COVID has just kind of made us do that and shown that the impact on the planet is extraordinary. Look at the Venice canals and all those sorts of stories that we're hearing. How does that then change our messaging around what we're doing with things like 1 Million Women and what I do in permaculture? Because all these things we're saying are they're here, they're now, we realize it. What change have you seen in how you communicate?
I think that it's a big question. It's a really big question because we are very mindful of the way that we communicate at this point in time for a number of reasons. And number one, that I'll list them all, but number one, because of COVID, understandably, climate change and action on climate change is sitting in the background. Not a lot's out there at the moment, and people are very focused on surviving and lockdown laws and this this crazy year of COVID. And so but climate change sits there ever present, and we do need to get that back on the agenda. But I think that something that so one thing is literally doing everything possible to keep it there, to keep it current and relevant. And the second thing is that that in COVID, I feel, and this is the way that we feel at 1 Million Women, there's almost this sense of opportunity, which I know seems like a the wrong word, but almost like there's more, like climate change is the good story that could come out of this. That COVID is such a, such a tragic, sad thing we're all living, and then action on climate change. We could emerge from this with this opportunity to live differently, and because and I know that emissions are down by as somewhere between 14 and 20%, and because of COVID, but we need those emissions down by that level because of the way that we've changed how we've lived, how we live. We need to learn from what we're seeing with COVID and find this new path forward. And I see that is a really new opportunity. And One Me Women is very focused on this new way forward, on this gritty determination that we all need, and that the window is getting smaller, and so that we need to that whole nice journey and go at your own pace, which is what I just said before, which was really how we started One Me Women, is now you need to run. And you need to run fast, and you need to be changing our lives with this a lot faster than before. But one other thing so we're doing a lot with that, but and the other thing is that we're really mindful of is the way that we are all feeling, in our community at One Me Women, as with everybody, anxiety and stress and depression and all those things that are always there. And when you're talking about climate change, it's we have to be careful that you don't take someone right through the despair. But COVID has now added another layer on that, and it's important that we are mindful of how we tell a story, so that we tell a story when we bring people in at a level of empowerment. And if we have to tell a story that is taking someone down to the depths of whatever the story is, like the other day we were talking about plastics and how plastics are affecting our health, and so it's a climate issue, it's a health issue, and we really had to redo the storyboarding of telling this story. It was like 10 slides that we were showing, and we really redid the starting point, because we came at it that plastics are bad for your health. So sorry, I'm probably talking for too much, but it's an important piece when you're storytellers, when you're trying to change people's behavior through emotionally connecting. So if we bring people in here, okay, this is bad, and then we're going to try to take you along the bad story and then lift you up at the end. It's a lot on someone's shoulders already.
I think this thing about your storytelling part of it is such a critical way of engagement, and like your 10 years of being involved in this and reaching so many people. You're saying, like, these are the lessons that you've learned about how we need to communicate, how we need to share the story, how we need to engage more people, because the urgency is only becoming ever more present. And so this is, so where do you start? Where do you start this story? Where do you engage with more people?
You start on empowerment. And so we are doing a lot more of that now, so that we start the messaging that you are powerful. You are powerful through everything you do. Okay, come with me now on this journey. I'm going to take you down. You might hit the bottom. I'm going to tell you this story, but I am going to bring you back out. I'm going to bring you back up, and I'm going to end off with your solution. And so that your starting point and your end point is up here in empowerment. And we're very mindful of making sure that our stories do that. And, whereas maybe we were, and that doesn't mean we're sugarcoating anything. It's just telling that story instead of saying, did you know it's bad for your health, and then drop you down, it's, do you know that when you say no to plastic, it's a powerful thing, and here's why. So it's just the way that we tell stories and we bring people along this journey. We're very mindful of the way of all our mental state at the moment. Yes,
and I think it's really important too to have that depth of knowledge and understanding, so that you do stick with it, and that you do have the information to then be able to share with someone else as to why. It's not just, oh, we should make change with our plastic. Oh yeah, sure. Why? Well, someone, when you pass that information on, that story can ripple and ripple and ripple, and it goes further. And I also think that when you get touched deeply like that, with the knowledge and with the heart of it, that you can't unsee it, can you? Once you kind of get drawn into that world, it's in you.
It's in you. And it's this thing of you know, and we do a lot of research. We've been doing this for 10 years, so we do a lot of research into behavior change, and how do you make it profoundly stick, so it's just part of you, and how do you make someone go from inaction to acting in their lives, to using their voice and their influence and their vote, and they're doing it all. How do you take someone along that journey? And I think that, a lot of it is that when you and this was very much the case when I started 1 Million Women. It was like, this is us. This is how we live. This is who I am. Oh, and over here, I do all these things to look after the planet. I do this, and this. And I noticed that very much at the beginning of 1 Million Women, when I was introducing the concept to people, and some people would say, oh, Nat, how do I fit all this in? I already have a busy life. How you're asking me now to fit all these new things in? And it's like, so profound behavior change. And when you're there is when you're not thinking that looking after the planet is an adjunct to who I am. It is just part of how I am. Yeah. And it's not about trying to fit things in. It's literally, I live this way.
Yeah, this is my way. Yeah. So what are some of the key things that you invite people to join you in doing? Have you got kind of like your top 5 or something like that you invite people to do?
Well, so 1 Million Women is this multi-layered kind of movement. We have a website, we have an app, we have social media, we do campaigns, we do physical events up until
you can.
Yeah, now a lot of Zoom events.
Yeah.
And we're a movement, and the whole focus is about empowering you to change how you live. And so it's like, I think as we speak, we're about to launch a campaign around divestment, and
fantastic,
and which is a big theme for us for the next few years, and really understanding where your money is and educating our community about making sure our money is invested in banks and institutions that don't invest in fossil fuels. And that's a big theme that we're focusing on.
Huge. Yep.
Yeah. Or next month we're doing a big food waste challenge, and food waste is another big theme for us. And we're doing Food Waste Free October, which is about for the whole month of October, reducing our food waste to zero. And or we'll do campaigns around leaving plastic things on the shelf, or our app shows 300 actions that you can do on a daily basis. And so we've got these different touch points, and we don't care how you get involved with 1 Million Women, how you find your way there. We just focus on, once we've got you, we move you along this journey that you are changing how you live, and you're influencing others to do the same.
Yeah, great. And so how can people get involved or more involved? They can be touching base with the app or the website, but if they want to be like a real activist within the movement, how do people do that? Because I'm asking this question because this group of perma youth I work with, they're so keen to be sort of more collaborators with movements that are happening and have a power. And well, the size of the movement too, that 1 million women is, it's really empowering for them to feel that they could be part of something much larger than themselves as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's a really good question, because I used to think up until, just recently, that once you join 1 million women, you're in, and you're part of it. And it's a very interactive and engaging community, and we grow together. But the last couple of years, I have been thinking, how do we make 1 million women far more grassroots? How do we create 1 million women communities everywhere instead of being one big community, which, we're about 970,000 women at the moment, but we are just spread out across the globe as one movement, which is wonderful. But I think that is the next chapter of 1 million women is creating smaller 1 million women groups around the world. So I would love to chat to your permaculture young women and talk to them about this, because it really is collaboration is the most important thing from here on.
Yeah,
when I started 1 million women, it was a new concept to me, collaboration, because as a cosmetics manufacturer, it was all about secrecy, competitiveness. I mean, I spent most of my day trying to figure out how to get somebody's product off the shelf so I could get mine on. And you never collaborated. It's cutthroat. You want people out. You want companies to close up so you had more space. And when I started 1 million, which is a completely different approach, it was about sharing and collaborating and inclusiveness. And it took me the best part of 3 years to unpack what I had learned as a businesswoman. And I'm sure that all those ethics, I would be much better at it today if I still had my cosmetics company, but it's just not the way that I worked. And so it was a hard thing to learn, which I needed to do because I was building a movement. But today, and in today's, as we try to navigate this crazy world, joining forces and collaborating, and we've all got one goal.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
so clear now, hasn't it, that really what we're all needing to be doing is to be creating the conditions for the change that we need to see in the world, and whatever those conditions are, wherever we are, and joining forces with different movements. So this, the Perma Youth, for example, are talking with the Earth Guardians movement, which is, across North America, and 1 million women speaks to them a lot because they're mostly young women, and really just finding that way, and they're just beginning. And so, I mean, what advice would you give to a group of people who are just starting a movement? So these young women are looking at really starting this movement. How did you get from going, I'm going to start a movement, to actually starting a movement? I mean, it's quite a jump.
Yeah, it was quite a jump. And I think you don't think too deeply. I know that it's just that if you, like, when I started 1 Million Women, I didn't know who the environment minister was at the time. I didn't know any climate policy. I didn't know much about climate change science at all. I didn't even know who WWF were. Like, honestly, I was very disconnected to all of this. I really was. All I knew is I had just done something profound. I got my electricity consumption down, and then I got the food waste in our, hardly any food waste in Mint, but something like 80%. I thought, this is an incredible thing. And instead of worrying about what I didn't know, I just grabbed hold of the passion of what I felt I could share with others about what I just did. And so I think if you think too hard on the negatives, you never get something up. Now, getting something up, you may succeed and you may fail. That is one of the, that is it. But just go for it. It's
There's
my
something.
beautiful daughter-in-law.
Oh,
I'm in
yes.
their bedroom.
Yeah. There's something about what you're doing, I think, and maybe this is part of it. It feels like a celebration.
Yeah.
Like it's not just the education about it, which is, it's a key part of it, but you're celebrating the change that you made. You're celebrating the change that is possible. You're celebrating people coming together, and it feels lively. It's the difference between, telling people what's wrong all the time to celebrating what we can do right and do together. And it has an attractive force rather than a repelling force. And there's something in that I think that you've just absolutely nailed.
Oh, thank you, Morag. That's really beautiful to say. I mean, we focus on what you can do and not on what you can't. We focus on uplifting and inspiring people instead of filling them with guilt. And because there's no point. And we all need to act, and it is so. I think I might have said this earlier, but it's so easy to slip from either denial or inaction right across to despair, and to wallow in despair, and to sit there and feel that you can't do anything. It's not a hard thing to just bypass this piece in the middle, which is about action. And I know for me, I would much rather be sitting here in this piece of action, because it's filled with energy, it's filled with optimism, it's filled with hope, and it's filled with this determination to change the world. And so, but climate change is a very big concept, and it's overwhelming. And so it's a matter of breaking it down so you can really grasp hold of it and go, okay, I understand that, and if I do this is the outcome. And so it's breaking it down into what you can do as an individual and what that means if we're all doing it as a collective. And the beautiful thing about empowerment is that it helps you find your confidence and your voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hold others accountable for their inaction.
Yeah.
And
so if you were, the bigger picture of what you want to achieve with 1 million women, apart from gathering 1 million women or more to be positive activists, what's that bigger picture goal? Do you have, what do you want all of those women to be doing together? Is there something?
I think that the bigger picture, oh my goodness, I don't know. I just think that the vision of 1 million women is that we are millions of women. Like, of course we want to go past 1 million, but the vision is that we are women of the world, living with the least impact on the planet and influencing others to do the same, and using our voice and our vote, and our everyday actions. And that is it. That's the vision, and that there is more and more of us, joining forces and doing that. And because when we're all doing that, and influencing others, the world changes.
Yeah. And we're raising the children who, and thinking from the beginning is there. If you're being raised in an environment that is just normal, you don't have to learn about it. It just is. And there's something that Nora Bateson, I'm going back to her again because I'm working with her a lot lately, that she's saying part of the shift that's happening is that needs to happen is actually a shift in perception. Because when we shift our way of thinking about things, then everything changes. And it shifts the way that we make our decisions. It shifts the way that we relate to one another. It shifts the way that we do our everyday life. And so also not often we kind of look just for the action, but an action is actually the shift in understanding and perception and relationships and all of that as well. And so I think part of all of this is valuing that and how we communicate with our children and all of those things that makes this really important.
Yeah, that's right. It is. That's absolutely right. And that's why a big theme for One Million Women is the love of earth and the love of community. And a big part of the way that we communicate is making sure that we are emotionally connecting with people. And because if it sits all up here in your head and you understand it, and you can articulate it, and you can really, you can really discuss it around the dinner table, that's all well and good. And that's one process. It's got to travel to your heart, because once you feel this in your heart and you know that, what I do matters and what I do shapes the world. Once you feel that, actually changing how you live does become an easier concept. Yeah.
And so people, when they come in contact with you, feel that too. And it kind of, it almost emanates out of you, and that it becomes contagious, this positive contagiousness of good action in the world. Yeah.
Oh, that's really lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's been so fantastic speaking with you today. And I really do hope that at some point you'll be able to chat with the Perma Youth and find a way that we can, maybe they're a local hub of 1 million women or something.
Oh, I'd love it. Let's make that happen.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I know that you've crashed someone else's place.
I can hear them wanting to. It's my son and daughter-in-law, and they're just about to have a baby. So
oh my gosh, very exciting!
Very exciting time in our household at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Well, in their room at them.
Well, thank you so much for joining me and sharing that with us, and I really do look forward to connecting up our little movement with 1 million women. It sounds absolutely fantastic. And good luck with the new campaigns, because that can make such a massive change. The whole development.
We're excited about them. Launching today. So the
great. All right. So I'll put all the links to all of to your book and also to those different campaigns down below, so people can access that and follow that up as well.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Thank you. Thanks so much for your support, Morag. Thank you.
Okay, lovely to chat with you.
See you later. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
So thanks for tuning in to the Sense Making in a Changing World podcast today. It's been a real pleasure to have your company. I invite you to subscribe and receive notification of each new weekly episode, with more wonderful stories, ideas, inspiration, and common sense for living and working regeneratively. Anchor positive permaculture thinking and design into action in this changing world. I'm including a transcript below and a link also to my 4-part permaculture series, really looking at what is permaculture and how to make it your livelihood too. So join me again in the next episode, where we talk with another fascinating guest. I look forward to seeing you there.